Vic Frankl talks about how you had to survive in a concentration camp by having skills.
I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed into doing things later in life.
I thank God for slavery. I thank God for the crack house.
While Ron DeSantis has banned certain teachings of Black history in the state of Florida and now has revised the standards to include the passage that Black people benefited from slavery through the acquiring of skills, the state of Florida has now approved a curriculum from the conservative propaganda machine that is Prager University. Not an actual university. This is the propaganda technique. They placed a U at the end of their brand, Prager U, so that people can believe that what they share is actually some type of curriculum from scholarly sources. If you want to see how far they are going with this logic, this irrational argument that Black people benefited from slavery through the acquiring of skills, I want you to listen to this next clip from The Five that airs on Fox News, and listen to two different individuals. First, you're going to hear the voice of, I believe her name is Jessica Tarlov. She is the more liberal-leaning voice in the conversation. Listen to how she sets it up, comparing this ridiculous teaching to someone saying that there could be a benefit from the Holocaust for Jewish people. And then I want you to listen to the response from Greg Gutfeld, who really goes the distance with this logic. And it says that, yeah, the best way to survive the Holocaust, the best way to survive concentration camps were to have skills that made you valuable.
Good. And frankly, I'm just fundamentally uncomfortable with the sentence that Blacks benefited at all from this. And, it made me think, as someone, obviously I'm not Black, but I'm Jewish. Would someone say about the Holocaust, for instance, that there were some benefits for Jews, right? While they were hanging out in concentration camps, you learned a strong work ethic, right? Maybe you learned a new skill.
Did you ever read Man's Search for Meaning? Vic Frankl talks about how you had to survive in a concentration camp by having skills. You had to be useful. Utility kept you alive.
Utility kept you alive. I'm sorry, what about the families that were killed on day one after arriving at concentration camps, right? The willingness to go this far in order to, one, defend Ron DeSantis. This is how far they're willing to go to forward this cruelty, because that's what this is. This is indoctrination, yes, but it's also the cruelty. They're laughing at this. This type of thing makes them giddy because they get to rub it. They know that it hurts. They know that it causes grief and pain to people who are the descendants of enslaved people and to survivors of the Holocaust that are still living today. To take these talking points and then plaster them all around this country is really just an act of cruelty.
Well, you should talk to them about it. I mean, I didn't do it and I wasn't involved in it. But I think what they're doing is I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed, being a blacksmith into doing things later in life.
There was no later in life for enslaved people. There was one generation that was liberated and freed. But for every generation of Black people before the emancipation, before Juneteenth but I've got to state the history right because my brother, Dr. Karl Mack, set the record straight, before the abolishment of slavery completely on December 6th, 1865, right? There were generations of Black people who never were freed, who died, who were born and died in slavery, and whatever skills they learned along the way was 100% for the benefit of slave masters, to their detriment, because the more skillful they were, the more likely they were going to be shipped off away from their families, sold to another plantation, right? This gives the notion or the idea or the sensation that slavery was some type of internship program, a training program for Black people, because one, they didn't have skills to begin with, and then two, when they got those skills, they graduated.
But the reality is all of that is rooted in whatever is factual. They listed everything out. And if you have any questions about it, just ask the Department of Education. You can talk about those folks. But I mean, these were scholars who put that together. It was not anything that was done politically.
Scholars. He's talking about the committee that he assembled for African American history, and I want to point out one of these so-called scholars who is a pastor in the state of Florida in Duval County, Kim Daniels. She was appointed to the Florida Department of Education African American History Task Force by Ron DeSantis, and it's funny that Greg Gutfeld would throw in a little bit of his anti-Semitism, because as you listen to this clip from Pastor Kim Daniels, who is one of these so-called scholars, listen to how she seamlessly throws in her anti-Semitism with her self-hatred as a black person.
And you can talk about the Holocaust, but the Jews own everything. I thank God for slavery. I thank God for the crack house. If it wasn't for the crack house, come on somebody, God wouldn't have never been able to use me how he can use me now. And if it wasn't for slavery, I might be somewhere in Africa worshiping a tree.
Is she the scholar that you're referring to? She's literally on the committee that helped shape this type of ridiculous propaganda that's now being taught in Florida schools. Is that the scholar that you're speaking of?
But I mean, these were scholars who put that together. It was not anything that was done politically.
Trigger warning, content warning for this next clip. It is extremely violently homophobic and transphobic, and it contains the usage of the F word. Now, the F word is bleeped out, but I just want to make sure I give you this warning. This next preacher, Aaron Thompson of the Verity Baptist Church, I want you to listen to the deep-seated evil that is at the core of all of these people who have placed their homophobia to be the crown jewel of their Christianity. Whether you're black, white, brown, it doesn't matter what color you are. We are finding ourselves in a season where people prioritize their hatred of gay people above any other aspect of their faith. And they are at the point of violence, and they have been at the point of violence for some time. Let's listen to this clip. Again, content warning.
The gratuitous use of the F word is going to be used in this sermon. The F word I'm talking about is faggot or fag, okay? Is there such thing as a Christian sodomite? Because this is what the game that they play now. Oh, we're saved too. We go to church. Yeah, you go to some faggot church where some bull dyke is sitting behind the pulpit, and you know they're just sending people to hell. They don't even believe the Bible. At these Methodist churches, they don't believe the Bible. And, you know, any church that flies a rainbow flag outside of their building is not a real church, folks. It's not a legitimate church. And if there's a bunch of faggots there, then there's a bunch of molesters there because they're all pedophiles. Right. And you're like, well, you know, but my cousin, they're really nice and they're really sweet and they're really cute and they're so funny, you know. But you don't know what they're doing behind closed doors. Do you think they're going to tell you the vile and wicked and beast-like things that they're doing? They're not going to tell you that kind of stuff. So even people that have like sisters or brothers or parents, God forbid, or any of this, look, you know, respect your parents. Honor your parents. But if they're a faggot, then have nothing to do with them. If they're your kid, have nothing to do with them. If it's your cousin, your best friend from high school, whatever. You know what? There's no YouTube channel to get nuked, so I don't really care. Fag. Sorry, Pastor. Anyway, he don't care, hopefully. I would cut ties with any kid that was a fag. My own kid, any kid. I don't want to have anything to do with them. You know, if a homo kills themselves, I'm not going to be sad about it. Are you going to be sad about it? I hope not. Because that's just one less freak in our society. We got all these different people that put us in these hate groups, right? The new IFB. The ADL hates our guts. What are they? The Anti-Defamation League. Jews.
There it is.
And I'm pretty sure the SPLC is tied to the Jews somehow, right?
There's never but one breath separation between their homophobia and their racism, or their homophobia and their anti-Semitism. Being the person that I am, the human being that I am first. This is the kind of motivation that I need. I need to hear that, because I need to be constantly reminded of who I'm going against very directly. I need to be constantly reminded that they're the same. They are the descendants from slave masters who used Christianity in the exact same way to lynch black people. I need everyone to understand very clearly that these people are eagerly waiting on an opportunity to start lynching again. And this time they've set their eyes on the LGBTQIA community. And so for any Christian who supports me and but like, Ben, I don't know about that gay stuff. I got a couple folks like that. Ben, I love what you say, man, but you're always defending the LGBTQ, the alphabet mafia, and not have the sense of urgency to protect human life from people like this, from monsters like this. Did you hear the baby in the background cooing and crying? Children who are going to be raised with this type of thinking and have this type of thinking normalized. For anyone who doesn't understand why I would align all of our causes, every single one of our fights must be aligned. One of the number one things that's being told to black people is to not allow our fights to align with other people. To hell with that. In church, I would say the devil is a liar. We absolutely must unite. Whatever we allow them to do to any community, whether they are unhoused people, if we allow it to happen to unhoused people, it would happen to those of us who have places to stay. If we allow it to happen to the LGBTQIA community, it would happen to us, to everyone else. It would happen to black people. It would happen to Jewish people. It would happen to Muslims. And if you happen to be so far gone in your thinking that you are a person of faith, or you're a Jewish person, or you're Muslim, or you're Christian, whatever your faith is, the moment you do a single thing that these white nationalists, theocratic fascists don't like or approve of, you will be just as eradicated as they want to eradicate the LGBTQIA community. None of us are safe. We must all unite to fight against these monsters.